with me. Tube and which. If you want to follow along. Okay. So low streams. Copy link. Right. Okay, who we got? Nobody yet. Hello world. Make sure that's working. So I want to get Zombie in because he's just got this controller as well today. Or maybe he got it yesterday. I need to move that back at some point. So, new controller, one of them. Yeah. Paddles on the back. I like the paddles on the back. That's my favourite thing. The paddles on the back are my favourite thing. Everything else, not as good as the Reflex, unfortunately, which we will go through shortly. Come here. That's the Reflex. That's basically a PS5 controller, but modified by Scuf. This is better than this new one, after a day of testing it and playing with it. So, come on, Mr. Zombie. Are you watching? Let me know if you are watching. Right, so first things first. So basically this, I've been testing in my second Windows partition operating system all morning and set it all up there. Then I tried to export all the profiles and then import them onto my main Windows 11 install, and the only thing that copied across was the general settings. None of the mappings copied across, so I've got to set them all up again from scratch. So I thought I'd do that with hopefully Zombie's going to tune in and watch, and then you can see what's going on. But I actually made a video of it as well that I'm going to follow on here. So I need to watch my own video back. I basically recorded what my settings were from my other computer, so I could watch it back and just walk it through. Let me have a look. Let me have a look. Oh, where's my latest video for this? Is that it? Yeah, that's it. Okay, so I've got to watch that. So I've got to watch the video at the same time as. Oh, right. Also got to watch OBS to make sure anyone's watching. Somebody just subscribed. Thank you for that. I can't see who that was. I don't know who came up on the screen. And it hasn't recorded it in my chat, which is lovely. But thank you anyway. Do we have a zombie yet? Do we have a zombie yet? Maybe. Don't know. What I'm going to do is I'm going to join my Discord chat channel if anybody wants to jump in there as well. Any of my friends want to. Although saying that, I think Biscuit might be using it. No, Biscuit's not using it. So anyone want to talk to me, you can jump in there, jump on the stream. Right. So first things first, okay, so this new IQ software, yeah, basically replacing Anti-Micro or DS for Windows. And you have to have it running in the background in order for the key mapper to work. So all this extra stuff where it's monitoring everything is all bloat, basically, that I don't want. So I need to get rid of all these sensors to start with. So let's get rid of all of these, because this is just bloat I don't want. Because Anti-Micro is really small and lightweight. It doesn't add much latency, whereas this monster is going to add a ton of latency, which is really annoying. I thought this controller, you could basically put the keyboard mappings in and the key maps in, and then you can unplug it from IQ and it would just run as itself. Doesn't work like that at all. Basically, IQ is just replacing anti-micro, and it on the fly is mapping keys to keyboard and mouse presses on the fly. That's what it's doing. So first things first, try and debloat the IQ by taking off all these sensors. Just remove them all, get rid of them all. So when you go to the even in the dashboard, don't want them here either. Look, go away. Stop bloating my computer. Okay, so once that's done, I don't know whether I can get rid of these ones as well, but I don't know. Anyway, once that's done, let's go to mappings. Let's maximize this. So I need to basically set this up from scratch because, as I said, I set this up on my other Windows image, which is basically just a clean Windows image, and I played with it, configured it, and then I did an export of the profile, and then I logged into my main Windows, and then I did an import of the profile, and none of the mappings copied across. So I have to now manually set them up one by one. I'm not sure that chat's working. I'm going to restart the chat. Give me a second. I'm not sure that chat's working. I can't. If there is chat, I can't see it. Any better? Maybe. We'll find out. It says it's delivering it, but anyway. Right, so I need to set this up from scratch now. So I made a little video of a walkthrough of it. So I'm going to watch that on my streaming PC while I do it on this PC. So the difference between mappings and hardware mappings is basically hardware mappings, they can only map these six things: the side buttons and the rear paddles, right? That's all it can map. And it can only map those to face buttons. It can't map them to any keyboard and mouse things. It can't map them to any kind of macros, opening any apps or anything. So this is basically the mapping when you turn off IQ, you turn off the app in the background, and what will still run. So it's basically just like a normal Scuf where you're kind of saving paddles to other buttons. You press and hold them while you're saving them, and that's all that's doing. That's all that this can remember, the controller. That's all it can remember whilst IQ is not running, ICUE, which is really annoying, as I said. So there's no point in this controller really for using hardware mappings, because you might as well just use anti-micro. It's lighter weight and it's got more flexibility. So, the one you want is the mappings one, because you're going to leave IQ running in the background, and you're going to basically map all these things to whatever you want: the keyboard and mouse, your mouse, your opening apps, your turning up volume, turning down volume, anything you want. Which, as I say, can be done in anti-micro just as easily, but this is what we're doing in this IQ thing for this controller. Right, so the first mapping I've got is P1. Which was P1? I think that's pedal 1 there. Or is that pedal 1 there? I think it's pedal 1 there. And the first mapping I've got is to an action, and I think I have it to B. So I've just mapped that one to B. Okay. So these are all the kind of options you can use. Bear in mind that if you map any of these paddles or buttons or anything to a keyboard press, then in Fortnite it will change input device when you press that button on your controller, which then maps to a key on the keyboard or the mouse. It will change input device to keyboard and mouse, and you will lose aim assist for 2, 3, 4 seconds. There are only 2 exceptions to this. The 2 exceptions that do not break aim assist and do not change the input type are scroll wheel up and scroll wheel down on the mouse. So what I do is any function that is not available to me on a controller, such as going to weapon slot 1 directly, I bind to either scroll wheel up or scroll wheel down. So in my case, I bind it to scroll wheel up. So when I then press a button on my controller, or a paddle, it then goes to scroll wheel up, does it once, and then I get my shotgun. And it hasn't changed input device. Hasn't gone from controller to keyboard and mouse input device, so you do not lose aim assist. They are the only 2 buttons that you can do this with. As I say, you can still bind other keys if you want, but you will lose aim assist for a couple of seconds. So any functions you want to use with that, I would suggest it's functions that you don't need in a fight, such as binding a button for your augments, which you don't need in a fight. It doesn't matter if you lose aim assist for 2-3 seconds afterwards. Or auto run, if you just set auto run. Or, I don't know, comms, if you're wanting your bot to res you. You don't need aim assist for 2-3 seconds when you do that. So they are the ones that I've kind of been mapping to these bottom ones here. Things you do not need aim assist for, but you can still bind to a key on the keyboard. Anything like the paddles that you want to bind in a fight, only bind those to either existing controller buttons or scroll wheel up and scroll down. I hope that makes sense. Right, so let's go through them. I need to watch my own video back as I go through. So the second P2 is a macro. So P2 we've got a macro. So I'm on 0 builds here. What do I do? So I've got multiple profiles here. I want to delete profile. Let's delete all of these. Yep. Okay, so I only want 2 profiles: a 0 build profile and a builds profile. Let's start with the builds profile and then modify it for 0 builds, because that's probably the easiest one. So what was the first one I did? I did that one, didn't I? And I mapped it to B. It was an action, which is that, and B. Okay, so that's one done. Another annoying thing about this, I find now, if I now try and click on another one, it doesn't work. In order to get to the next one, you have to go somewhere else and come back again. Now I can go to the next one. I love this stuff. It's so much easier in anti-micro, but what are you going to do? Right, so. Right, so what was my second one? So my second one was so I'm mapping a macro for this one. And what I'm doing, this is builds, I'm mapping scroll wheel down, but only 2 notches. So that it I want to be able to reset a wall with just 2 notches. So I'm not doing multiple different actions with different kind of keys in a row. All I'm doing is basically 2 notches on the scroll pad, on the scroll wheel. That's it. So it's not cheating. It's fine, because it's the same action. Right, so in order to get this, I rearranged these in order, by the way, and drag and drop them down. So in order to get the macro, you need to basically go into General, and you need to basically choose the thing that you want it to do out of this lot and deselect all the other ones. Because I've already had a crash on IQ where I basically had all of these ticked on and it crashed. I didn't like it at all. So just do the ones that you're about to record the macro on, okay? So, yeah, so I'm ready to record now. So I'm just going to do basically 2 notches of the scroll wheel. So you press record and then you scroll down twice. Now I know, I want, that's done now by the way. So you press stop. I want that delay in between, because I did that really, really slow, but I want to do it with no delay at all. So I want to do 2 notches as fast as possible. So I've just changed that to 1 millisecond. And then now I've got a macro. I think I meant to have another delay in here. Do I have another delay? Well, I probably don't need it. It's just scroll wheel down, notch, a millisecond delay, next notch, and then done. Okay, so that's basically resetting a wall. So that works really well. I tried that in Creative earlier. Really good. That is actually the best that I've had it on any controller with Anti-Micro, with DS for Windows or anything. That macro there for just resetting a wall in one click. And I just bind it to an inner paddle. Right, so next one, let me scroll forward a bit. What's the next one? 3 is mouse scroll up. So is that 3 or is that 3? That one might be 3. Remember, I have to go up and down to get a new one. It's really annoying. This is going to be, and not a macro, this is going to be a remap on the mouse. Yeah, and it's going to be, which one was it? Scroll up. Scroll up, done. Right, putting these in order. Why is that saying, oh, I've done the wrong one. That's P4. I wanted that P3. Why is that one? That's D-pad left. Okay, let's change that to D-pad left. Okay, done. Right, go in, go out. Right, this is the one I wanted. Remap to mouse, and then scroll up. Yep, so let's put these in order. P1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's right. D-pad 1, P4, D-pad 3. So right now, I've basically got my scroll wheel up and scroll wheel down on those inner paddles. And then in Fortnite, I can allocate scroll wheel up and scroll wheel down to anything I want. So in this one, I use basically scroll wheel reset. And in this one, I allocate it to weapon slot 1. So I can go straight to my shotgun. Okay, so I've got to keep going. Next one, now it's the side buttons. So it's this one and this one. Side buttons. This one I disable, principally because when I was playing with it earlier, whenever I was pressing it, I kept accidentally catching the corner of the left bumper. I kept catching the corner of this here. And it was getting really, really annoying, and I couldn't set it to anything that I wouldn't then need. So I disabled it. This one's okay. I think I've got that on mark things. That one was all right, but this one was, my finger was catching the edge of the bumper the whole time, and it was driving me nuts. So this one, mark stuff, but that one I've got disabled. Right, next, in, out. What did I say? It was D-pad down, I think. This one, D-pad down, and I have D-pad down as mark stuff, as I say. So that's marking stuff. Right. So we've done that one, that one, that one, that one, that one, that one. What else we got? Then we got the G buttons. I think I've only done 2 G buttons at the moment. First G button was auto run. I think that was equals. Yeah, it was equals. So it was this one. Oh, yeah, annoying. This one is allocated to a remap keyboard, and then equals, because equals is the default for auto run. So it doesn't matter that that's going to break aim assist, because I'm not going to need it in the middle of a fight. I'm basically going to be holding left stick forwards, press that with my right finger, take my thumb off of this and press that, and then I'll just basically be able to keep running or keep gliding in the straight line. I don't need aim assist for 3 seconds after that, so that's fine. So these ones are, I've thought about which ones need aim assist and which ones don't need aim assist. And then the other one, I think I've got them all disabled apart from the far right one, which I've got set to 7, I think, for my augments. So that one is disabled. That's so annoying. This one is disabled. I mean, I can add these later as I need them. This one's disabled. And then this one I've got remapped to keyboard number 7, like that. And that's basically selecting augments. turning that on. Okay, so I think that's it. I need to just put these in the right order, don't I? Wait, what did that just do? Come on. I need to get all these down the bottom. Come on, drag them down. Is there a way of dragging this up? No, there isn't. So you've got P1, 2, 3, 4, S1 and 2, G1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so they're all in the right order now. So now that is mapped. So what I do then is I basically go on the onboard memory and I save it to, builds. Save it to the one I want to keep on the onboard memory, so that when I press, well, I suppose it doesn't really matter, does it? If IQ's not running anyway. Oh, I don't know. Seems redundant. Eco mode, I don't want that on, thank you. What else? So I have brightness basically on 0. I want everything concentrating on actions, not flashing lights, thanks. Yeah, the other thing I did when I tested the overclocking for this, which I'll go into in a minute. I did test USB and wireless, and they were exactly the same response times, exactly the same. So there's no difference between whether you want to have a wired connection or stick the dongle in a USB 3 port and use that. There's no difference with this controller. Maybe later when they update the firmware and we can actually properly overclock this controller, then it's worth doing wired, but at the moment it's exactly the same. Right. So that's my setup. Let's go to the other ones as well. Lighting effects, doesn't matter because I've got them on 0 brightness, haven't I? Triggers, I just use the default shooter one. Make sure you got at least 5%, otherwise I think these automatically trigger themselves. Look, they're a bit jumpy, they're a bit finicky. So you have to be very careful here. Thumbsticks, I've gone on linear at the moment, but I wouldn't mind trying the dynamic ones. I don't know what dynamic means, but I wouldn't mind trying that. So again, we'll go back to save that in a sec. Vibration, I want that off. So the shooter ones should turn all that off. And then again, save it. Save it again. Okay. Right. So I think that's set up for builds. So let's double check that that is working fine for builds. Are there any other things I need to have off? Don't think so. I don't want any log. I don't want any sensors at all logging. That's just crashed. I mean, this is why anti-micro is so much easier. That's just crashed. Start it up again. I think I'm going to go back to my FPS, my Reflex FPS already. Okay. So what have I just done? Because look, it's just created another one here because it crashed. I don't know which one I'm running now. See, there's no mappings on this one at all. This is the 0 builds. This is the builds. There are mappings on this? Okay, this is fine. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete that 0 builds. I'm going to make this default for now. And I'm going to delete the 0 builds one. I mean, it's not much difference in the two profiles. So I might even just have it, not even have a builds and 0 builds. Yeah, I'm tempted not to even bother. Envision Pro Profile 3. Okay, so now I've just got one profile. One profile now. I'll move it so you can see it. I've basically deleted all the others and just have builds. I'll modify it in a minute for 0 builds, I think. But whether or not I need to, I don't know. I might not need to. Okay. Alright. I don't know whether I can move this up. This is slot 2. What does I'm in this? Right, let's leave this running in the background and open up Fortnite. Lag, don't need anti-micro, do need that. Nobody's watching now, great. Well, one person's watching, probably Bill. Hello, Bill. But yeah, you cannot overclock this controller, and it's unstable even without an overclock on it. It's very, very bad. Right, so let's double check what settings we've got for this. Yep. That's all fine. And then here we should have weapon slot. Depending on whether I'm doing reset or that one. Let's do reset for now. Building edit, and that one is both scroll bar reset. Okay. And then we'll go and actually, what's this? Let's jump into a world and try them. Right. Oh, we've got to start the thing. Can you start? No, just start already. Normally there's an enter button. Oh, that's interesting. Come on. Not already. Please help me. Right. Whoa, that was delayed. I hope that wasn't the controller and not the map. That looked delayed as well. I'm not rotating properly with this. I want linear back. Look how laggy that was. What is going on? Yeah, I'm not sure I like this curve editor at all. I think I'm just going to go back to linear. For starters. Thumbsticks. Linear. Device settings. Alright, yep. Close that. I go shoot. Doesn't even shoot. This feels laggy. on now. Right, so let's double check. So I've got, as I said, I've got that macro to reset. It's basically just, it does, you press it once and it does 2 notches of the scroll wheel, like that. So that's the best I've ever seen it with anything ever. I know I can press 2 buttons and press edit and then reset and let go. That's 2 buttons. That's just probably just as fast, but when you're shooting someone, you kind of want to spam reset. So I like that one. What are the other ones I've got? So that inner one goes straight to shotgun. That. Press 1 button. Go straight to shotgun. Good. That pedal jumps. That pedal is switch mode. So say that's reset. And then you've got the outer button. So I've got marker's outer button. That outer button there. And pretty much everything else is normal. Got map on the D-pad. Left and right, let's jump. And then what have we got? We've got auto run. So you do that and then you lock it. There we go, auto run with that G1 button. And I can't test the augments in here because it's creative and there are no augments. Yeah, it just doesn't feel as fast as my reflex because it's not. The overclock's not as high. It's basically running 2 milliseconds instead of 0.7 milliseconds on a PlayStation 5 controller. It's not as good. Not as good. But I do like the rear paddles are mouse clicks, whereas on the Reflex they're just big clunky holes, and they're nowhere near as good. They just put a little presser into a hole button, and they're nowhere near as good, the rear pedals, nowhere near. So this has got much better rear pedals. So I think if I was building, I'd definitely be using these a lot more. Don't understand people that's claiming that this is lower latency than a Scuf Reflex FPS. It's just not. Complete placebo effect of buying a new controller, or they're comparing it to a year-old one or something with the sticks worn out. Probably what they're doing. Okay, so. Yeah, I love that scroll reset. Love that. Right, so if I was doing builds, no builds, what would I do? I would, instead of that reset, I think I'd have it on my utility button. So I'd have it on here. So you get where's scroll reset. So instead of still keep mouse wheel up on weapon slot 1. But instead of reset, I think I'd put it on weapon slot 4, actually 4. Weapon slot, no, I've just messed that up. That's down. Okay. Yep, so let's get rid of those 2. So now I've got wheel up on slot 1 and wheel down on slot 4. Now if I press that reset button, I go straight to 4. So if I was in a fight and I need to pull out shockwaves really, really fast, I've now got a button to go straight to my shotgun, and I've now got a button to go straight to weapon slot 4 where I keep my broom or shockwaves. So that's good. I like that. But again, nothing that couldn't be done in anti-micro, which is much lighter weight than that huge IQ app. Anti-micro can also let you do rapid fire crouching while you're shooting and dodging as well. which you can't do with this. It's very good for zero builds. I mean, I can do rapid dodging if I do that, press the thumbstick in and out a lot, but then that's going to mess up my aim because that's the thumbstick that aims. So yeah, so let's have a look at my results from my testing earlier. So I can probably just show you. Let's actually run a test now, shall we? Games. Let's run an X input test because this does register as X input, and the fact that I haven't touched it and it's just done a few on its own is a little bit what I'm not even touching it. And it's doing it on its own. That means there's some stick drift already. I know I only have my sticks on 2%, so maybe I should have them higher. Maybe 5%. I should really have them on 0 and let Fortnite do it, but if I'm testing externally, or if I'm, say, plugged in the controller and I'm running some latency tests on something else, then that's going to be adding latency if it's registering movement on the sticks or anything else. So you kind of want some dead zones. Is it still going? Has it stopped now? I've put it up to 5%. Has that stopped? Okay. Right, so this is with no overclock whatsoever, yeah? No overclock whatsoever. So I have to move the stick round in a circle, and it will tell you the response times of the stick going round, okay? So no overclock on this whatsoever. There we go. So you can see that what it's doing is it's kind of going between 3.7, 0, it's high and a low, high and a low, high, and that's an unstable polling rate is what that is. That's unstable. I mean, look at the jitter. It's 2 milliseconds jitter. It's basically jumping around 2 milliseconds constantly. If I did this on my Reflex, that jitter would be 0.00001 kind of thing. It would be almost nothing because it's stable, even with an overclock on it. So out of the box, this Scuf Envision Pro, which you can't see because it's all backwards because my screen's backwards, is not stable, doesn't have a stable polling rate. If I run this, look, the polling rate there is registered at 284. If I run this exact same test again, 4,000 samples, rolling the left stick around and around and around, look, different polling rate. Same huge amount of jitter. Now I've reported this already to Scuf support because I know some people have looked at this already, but I don't think Scuf know. I don't think they test this stuff at all. They just came up with their own motherboard and went, there you go. So they need to fix this in a firmware update. Hopefully it won't require a hardware update. They should be able to fix it in a firmware update. But that should be the same number over and over. And if you try and overclock it at all to anything whatsoever, then it won't change. It'll be exactly the same. It's the same on USB, it's the same on Bluetooth, assuming this is a Bluetooth dongle and not a Wi-Fi dongle. It's exactly the same. So you cannot overclock this controller, and the standard polling rate for it is all over the place. So anyone saying, "Oh, the latency is much better. It feels much better than the Scuf Reflex FPS," total placebo. They haven't tested it. They have not tested it. All right. So yeah, not impressed with that at all. That's very, very bad. I mean, it's not as bad as an Xbox Elite or something, which is 7 milliseconds. And it's not as bad as even an Astro C40, which is 3.7 milliseconds. which again in Astro C40 you cannot overclock, it's locked. Which is what Scuf have done apparently as well. Yeah. So yeah. So don't even bother trying overclocking it. It just won't. It won't work. It just will not work. I mean, let's do all. So there it is. That's what it appears at. Scuf audio, and with no overclock on it. And as I say, if I try and put an overclock on it, it doesn't make any difference whatsoever. You're probably just adding DPC latency, or it's just not doing anything. So don't bother trying to overclock it yet until we get a firmware update. What else? So what did we decide? We decided that we needed some dead zones in order for the controller that's plugged in to not register when I'm running other things, running other tests. So we do need some dead zones, but because in turn the dead zones lower than 5, it's basically controlling the dead zones in 2 different places, which isn't great either. But yeah, let me show you what I mean as well about the scroll wheel reset being the scroll up and scroll down on a controller being the only 2 things that do not break aim assist. Okay. So so I'm just going to run here. I'm going to press run, and then I'm going to press the auto run key. And the auto run key is mapped to, what was it? Equals. See that? See that in the bottom right corner? I don't have, it's F1234 now. It's basically got switched, Fortnite has switched to keyboard and mouse mode. And so you lose aim assist for a couple of seconds. Even when you go back, you still haven't got aim assist, you still haven't got aim assist, now you've got aim assist. So the only 2 things you can bind that do not change the inputs are scroll wheel up and scroll wheel down. I'm not actually touching the controller here, I'm actually doing this on my actual mouse with scroll wheel up and scroll down. But it's kept the controller input down there, it's not changing the Y, the L and the B. It's when I'm doing scroll wheel up and down. That is the only thing on the whole keyboard and mouse. The side mouse buttons convert. If I press the side mouse button, without pressing the mouse, yep, that converts it. Any buttons, the middle mouse button, that converts it to keyboard and mouse input. So the only thing that you can bind without breaking aim assist is scroll wheel up and scroll wheel down. This is why I used to use a Pro scroller, which I do still on my Astro. Nobody ever mentions this, by the way. It's stuff I found out. What else? Anything else? Yeah, I don't know if I want to even play with this. I mean, it's quite nice the fact that I can do auto run. I could quite easily just with my right hand reach over to equals anyway on the keyboard. Or if I want to do those, I can just press the button on the keyboard. So having these extra kind of buttons across here to do that is not that different from taking your right hand off and pressing the button to your right hand off and pressing the keyboard. You're going to break aim assist either way. So the unique selling point of this controller is not at all unique. It's basically just anti-micro or DS for Windows. Because we already could do those things with those. So there isn't really a unique selling point to this new controller other than the back paddles mouse clicks, which I really like. Really like that. But everything else is worse. It's heavier than the Scuf Reflex FPS. That one's much lighter. Probably because it doesn't have rumble motors in it. What else? Yeah, the back paddles on the FPS on the Reflex are horrible. They're wobbly. They break. They crack. Bits come off them. So the back pedals on this Reflex FPS are bleh. But everything else about it, digital triggers, digital bumpers, lower latency, much lower latency. And then any of the mappings you need to do, you just do with Anti-Micro, which is lighter weight than the IQ software running in the background, using up a load of CPU right now. So yeah, I'm a bit bummed out, to be honest with you, that I've got this lovely new controller, which feels great in your hands, but it's not as good as my old one. So I don't know what to do. Do I play with this? Do I get used to it? Do I just use it as a reserve one? Do I wait for the firmware updates? What do I do? What do I do? I don't know. I think if I was playing builds, I'd love that scroll wheel reset, instant one button. That macro is yummy. But I'm not playing builds. I'm pretty much only playing zero builds. So it doesn't really matter. And in zero builds, I'm not using the paddles, well, the right hand pedal as much because I'm not changing mode all the time. I can't not use it after a couple of hours of having it. It's a nice new controller, it's a new toy, but I kind of want to go back to the better one already. Frustrating. What to do? I don't think my chat's working. Can somebody type something, anything in my chat, please? I don't think it's working. There we go. Thank you very much. Do you enjoy the Vision Pro? No, we've just covered that. It's not as good as my Scuf Reflex FPS. It's just not as good. Higher latency. The software that comes with it is basically a clunkier version of Anti-Micro or DS for Windows. Heavier. You can basically, and you have to run IQ in the background. I kind of want to go back to my old one. But thank you, James, for typing in my chat and confirming that. Do you enjoy 4 paddles? Yes. The only 4 paddle controller the only 2 paddle controller that I have used for an extended period is this one, which is the Astro C40. And because I like my scroll wheel up and scroll wheel down, I actually bought a Pro scroller. Can you see that? It's a little scroll wheel on it. It's a physical scroll wheel on it, a Pro scroller. So I can use that binding for scroll wheel up and scroll wheel down, which doesn't break aim assist, on a 2-paddled controller. Oh wait, IQ has to be playing in the background while playing. Yes, it does, which is really annoying. It's basically, IQ is basically the same as DS for Windows or Anti-Micro, which is, we already had those, but it's a lot fatter. It's using up a lot more CPU, so it has to be running. So let me show you this in IQ. IQ has 2 sections in it, one for mappings and one for hardware mappings. So the mappings are the software mappings that work whilst IQ is running, and the hardware mappings are basically the only things that you can map for the paddles and these outer buttons are 2 other things already on the controller. You cannot map, yeah, it was with the scroller, yeah, it's really good. You cannot map anything, any keys, any apps, anything at all with this controller whilst IQ is not running, unless you use the mappings thing and then manually add the mappings to specific keys and things. But yeah, the Astro, I mean, Ship still uses the Astro, AmRapper uses the Astro controller still. I used the Astro again the other day while my Scuf FPS Reflex was in the shop. I'm not too far from London. I'm about 100 miles from London. So yeah, no, the Astro's really good, but its problems with it is the bumpers sometimes double register. They're kind of worn out after a couple of years. Nowhere near as bad as the Xbox Elite 2. Nowhere near as bad as that. And it's got quite high latency. It's 3.7 milliseconds response time, and it doesn't overclock. Whereas with the Reflex, the FPS Reflex, you can overclock that to 0.7, and it's blindingly fast. This thing, the Reflex PS5 Scuf, really good. So I'm leaning back to going back to this already, even after a couple of hours playing with the Envision, because the Reflex is better. I don't know, apart from the paddles on this Reflex are awful. They're wobbly, they crack, I've had a couple of them snap. Yeah, so in a couple of months, I'm hoping that Scuf come out with a new firmware, and it fixes the polling rate. You can't change the polling rate. That's stuck, and it's unstable as well. So I've opened a case with Scuf support saying, look, your polling rate's all over the place. Where's games? I'll do another one now. I'll show you. So you run an exit input test. You get your controller. You wiggle the left stick round and round, and you can see the response times. That number should be the same consistently down the screen. That was 4,000 tries. But you can see you get a high one, and then you get a low one, and then you get a high one, and then you get a low one. And so you get 2 milliseconds of jitter, which is basically a measure of how much it goes up and down. So that is an unstable polling rate. If you had that on another controller, that would be an unstable overclock, and you'd have to go back to a different one. So this is with no overclock at all on this brand new Envision Pro. No overclock on that. If you try and overclock it with a higher polling rate, it does exactly the same thing with exactly the same numbers. So you cannot, I don't care what anyone said on the internet, you cannot overclock this controller currently. Hopefully when they release some new firmware in a while, you'll be able to overclock it. But right now, you cannot overclock this controller. I mean, it will say it's overclocked. If you go into HID USB-F, you can basically get it to say 1,000 polling rate, but it doesn't change the polling rate at all when you actually then test it. And all these will be exactly the same. So you can get it to go to 1,000, but nothing will have changed. So it's not actually overclocking it. So that's a big disappointment. As I say, on my Scuf Reflex FPS, I set the polling rate to 250 in HID USB-F, and you actually get a 1,300 polling rate, and this is all 0.7, 0.6, all of it. And the jitter will be 0.0001-ish. So that properly overclocks that PlayStation 5 Scuf controller. Whereas the new Scuf controller that they made their own motherboard for, it doesn't. I mean, that's why it's cheaper, because they're not having to pay licensing for the motherboards to either Sony or Microsoft. So that's why it's cheaper than the other Scufs on their website. That's how they've managed to reduce the price. But it's not as good as the Sony PlayStation motherboard, unfortunately. So I don't know. What do I do? I've had this for a couple of hours. Do I go and play some proper games now with it, knowing that the polling rate's going all over the place and the response time is awful? Or I mean, I wouldn't be so upset if this was like 2.6, 2.6, 2.6, 2.6. But the fact it's so inconsistent means that when you're trying to do stuff in game, it's going basically fast slow, fast slow, fast slow, fast slow. And I'm pretty sure it's not very good for muscle memory if you're doing that. I mean, one of the things when I do my overclocking and testing for FPS and latency is I want a consistent frame time for 240 FPS. I want that frame time of 4.2 milliseconds. And I use RTSS to cap the frames because it can keep that frame time really, really solid, and that really, really helps with muscle memory. Massively so, because it's just consistent. It doesn't matter. I could get it lower, but if it's lower and it's going up and down a lot, it's not as consistent for muscle memory. So you want this to be consistent. Even if it's higher, you want it to be consistent. So I think we're just going to have to wait for them to fix it. As I say, I opened a support case with them earlier today, a couple of hours ago, to say, look, these are my findings. You need to come up with a new firmware, please, that is stable polling rate, because it's just ridiculous. And everyone else has got these same results. It's not just me that's getting this. It's everybody else that's got this new controller in the last couple of days. Anyone that's tested with X input test tool has seen the same exact thing. So it doesn't seem to be specific to different same controllers, but different stock. It's basically all of them. So hopefully they can fix it with a firmware update. So I don't know what to do. Should I play with this now, or should I go straight back to my Reflex FPS now? I don't know. I don't know what to do. It does seem laggier. I mean, if let me actually plug in my, let's swap them over. I'm going to turn off IQ, and I'll swap over my controller and I'll show you. I can't do the X input test because I need DS for Windows installed to emulate an Xbox controller to then get the results of 0.7, but it is running at 0.7 anyway, even with DS for Windows, because I know, because I've tested it. But yeah, I just want to see if it feels a little less laggy on the Scuf Reflex FPS. So let's swap them over. I did have a hand cam set up earlier, but I was just a bit concerned that it looked more like a crotch cam than a hand cam, so I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. Not going to do that. An old man with a crotch cam is not a good look. Right, so that's off. Let me turn off. The IQ stuff. So, turn that off. Make sure it's off in here. Quit, please. Right, now I can put anti-micro on. So anti-micro is now basically doing exactly the same thing as that IQ software, but it's a much smaller app and it's a much lower latency. So this is anti-micro for anybody who hasn't seen it before. Why is that not working? Probably because I double-clicked it. So, well, this is anti-micro X, which is the kind of next generation of it. But all I've got in here is I've basically mapped scroll wheel up on the mouse and scroll down on the mouse. Go with the build one to see what it. Yep. Oh, yeah, that feels much more responsive. Even though I haven't got my control freak on because I moved it. That's much faster. Hey, that's too fast. Just feels snappier. And that's with the Reflex FPS, that one. Yeah, that's almost too fast now. I need to take the sense down or get used to it. I need to cross over my control freak. My little control freak goes on my right stick. I mean, technically, this is a much more expensive controller. This was like £250, this Reflex, whereas the new Envision Pro was like 180. That is. Oh, I got bound to this scoreboard. Oh, that should be that. Have I got this round a different one here? Mouse 4 and mouse 5. They're exactly the same, so that should be bound to that. Oh, that's weird. Maybe I'm in the wrong profile. No, I'm in that one. Right, so 0 builds. Okay. Let's go back to 0 builds. I've got to reset everything now. That, we want no builds, save that, thank you. And then we want that profile, and then we want, what? Oh no, I've got to do those. That isn't a plus of the IQ stuff. You can actually bind paddles straight to functions as opposed to having to bind paddles to buttons. That is one advantage of the IQ stuff. It basically means I have to have these as unbound. Yeah, I have to have these as unbound. And then I need to have this and this. Set to crouch, I can have to scroll down, and then I can have weapon slot 1 to that, and then that should all be fine. Right, so now I can spam crouch while I'm, yep, anti-micro lets you spam crouch by just pressing one button. What I'm doing is pressing that button, and I can spam crouch. And there's a wall, what am I doing? Still in this map well enough. And so that's working fine as well. It goes still straight to shotgun. I want to mark something. Okay, I need to take off edit, and I need to put that as mark something. And then when I press that, it marks stuff. Okay. So yeah, that's sad really. I might play with it a bit more tomorrow, but I think I'm going to play a couple of games in a sec. It does feel better. It feels more responsive than this one by a long way. That's because the overclock's so much faster. ISO wall. Okay, right. Alright, what shall I do? Getting peer pressured into playing fair with the squad right now. Okay. That's fine. See if anybody else has got any other questions. Tommy said, I noticed the same things last night. I felt like it has to be an oversight, but who knows? It's not an oversight. It's just a brand new controller that they never created one before of their own. I get real damage. They get streamers who know nothing at all, yeah. Paul said the problem is with these new controllers, they're getting streamers to test them as opposed to people that actually get the games a lot. But anyway. I think that's it. I'm going to get some dinner, and I will probably play a little later with the boys. Paul hopefully will be on relatively soon, and then I'll hopefully play with Bill a bit later as well. Get the squad together. All right. Any questions? Give me on my Discord, or if you don't know my Discord, I'll do an invite here. Just ask me questions there. I'll copy that and paste it into both of them. Oh, that did work. Oh no, it didn't. Did that work? I think that worked. Right. Anyway. All right. Bye for now.